You're watching BCTV. We're all about Brantford. You're watching BCTV, Brantford Government Television, a service of Brantford Community Television. This program is brought to you in part through the support of the town of Brantford.
All right, I'd like to call this regular meeting of the Brantford Board of Police Commissioners to order. It's 5:34 on November 9th. Can I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes from October 13th, please?
So moved.
Second.
Please. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Chief, can we get your report, please? Chief, are you there?
Yep.
Yep, he's here.
I was just unmuting. I'll start off with the commissioner's report, the ComStat report. One item of notice is in October we had four armed robberies that occurred. One of them was on at Celestine Pawn, and that was back on the 12th. It was a robbery of a gold chain and some other items. That group looks like it's also tied to some other robberies in the region, so the detectives are following up on that. But back on the 27th of October, one individual, we believe at this point, committed upwards of at least 4 robberies.
Yes, can I have my agenda?
A carjacking. So what had happened was East Haven police had a robbery. They gave out the description of the vehicle. Our officers were looking for the vehicle. Then we had a robbery come in at the Evans Brantford Mobile. At that time, officers were responding there. We have another robbery that comes in at Chucky's Mobile. During all this, we're piecing everything together, vehicle descriptions gained. At one point, one of our officers does engage the vehicle in a pursuit on the highway. Unfortunately, the speeds were excessive, and he had to call the pursuit off. Well, after that happened, I guess that wasn't enough. The suspect went and robbed the Brantford Golf store. So the detectives, the next day, we were able to piece some good information together, went out, located the suspect, made an arrest, and also interviewed the suspect and had a successful outcome. So it was a little hectic for a little bit, but that's why you'll see that number so high. Literally one offender, one night. But I want to, number one, the officer, in these cases, when there's a violent felony like this, we will chase, but there is limitations for the safety of the public, the motoring public. So a good call on the officer to pull it off, good judgment. Unfortunately, there was another crime after that, but good work with patrol and the detectives. So compliment them on a job well done. Other than that, everything's pretty much stable. We're seeing some calls and some of the activity trend down, and we can expect that as we go into the colder months and with COVID now spiking. So we'll see that. As far as the forfeiture report, there's one expenditure. It was just the remainder of finishing up the gym, the outfitting of the police gym. And good thing in this day and age, the officers having a tough time. We need to get them working out, and with some of the previous gym closures. We have a cleaning protocol, so it's working out very well. Good reviews from them. Under injury, don't have any officers out on injury leave. However, I do have an officer on a light duty status related to a medical issue. We're hoping to get that officer back in the near future. But what I wanted to bring forward to the commission tonight and highlight, we are seeing, again, the COVID numbers they're going way up. What does that mean for us? What it means is we're losing officers to quarantine issues. We did have one supernumerary officer who had a bout with COVID. Thankfully, he's recovered. But as of right now, we have one officer out as precautionary measures due to a family illness. We have 2 out as of this morning and last night because of an exposure with a arrestee who was positive, COVID positive. So we lose those officers for a 14-day quarantine. And we have several officers out right now on precautionary sick leave. So they don't feel well. And we're waiting back for testing there. And again, we have the one on light duty. So in response to this, we've transferred the traffic officer back to patrol. We had a rotational position in our detective bureau, which helps, spread some of the knowledge and the experience among the patrol officers. We've had to stop that program for now to bolster our patrol staff. So what we project or what myself and the deputy and the command staff are looking at is, we're going to have to tighten up some of our operations again. I'm not 100% confirmed on the numbers, but it was brought to my attention today that we've already exceeded our peak of the April and May, back when we first started the COVID crisis. Again, but now we overlay the winter months, we overlay the sinus issues, the cold and flu, so I have a feeling this is going to be a trend we're going to have to work through. So we do have contingency planning in place. We have a whole COVID protocol and procedure in place. We have conversations with our regional partners and other departments for staffing reasons. We track staffing on a regional basis to see which way we're trending. And I have a feeling that trend line is going to go up. Impact on services, core police services will not be compromised. We will be able to always staff that. We always will have officers on the road. What we will maybe pull away from is some of the other things that we do may have a little longer lead times on. Like, I do apologize. I had a traffic request that had come in, and we just couldn't get to it with all the things we're dealing with right now. So we will start chipping away at those other services we provide, but we may see some longer lead times with that. So as far as public safety, it won't be compromised. It's just we're going to go back to core services of having officers on the road, attending to the calls. You'll see some more of our calls back on the phone. We were doing that in the height of COVID. We're going to go back to that. We're working with a vendor right now to get an online reporting that'll interface with our internal system, so you can register a lost property complaint online, and we'll have an officer contact you. I don't want to lose that. You all know that we're really big on customer service. I want that contact. Well, guess what? We have officers that are in quarantine. We have officers that are on light duty. We can work from home. So if people do these online type of complaints, we will follow up with a phone call. We will touch base. We will look at those calls. So I think that's just a projection of where we're going. It's unfortunate, but we're not alone. So I'll end with, we speak about the officers, but one of the things myself and the deputy are really focused on right now is our dispatch center. They do a fantastic job, but it's a highly complex job nowadays. They're managing different computer systems. You can't even just pick the phone up. The phone is all controlled through a computer. Our 911 system is you have to hit all the buttons. You have to know what you're doing. Our CAD system, our EMD protocols on the fire side, our dispatching of the fire department is all computerized. So it's a complex operation that we can't just pull people even if it's across unions, if we had an officer sit there, they can't do the job. So we're looking at capacity and contingency plans. And one of the ideas that I'm discussing right now, and we may bring forward through the Board of Finance or through the town hall and look for some support, is trying to identify some part-time people who have the credentials on a per diem basis if we need them, to bring them in. Because the dispatchers are no different. If they get a quarantine, we lose a dispatcher for 2 weeks. I have one dispatcher that's going out on medical leave for a while. We're down one dispatcher who unfortunately resigned last week. So we have 10 dispatchers. We have one that resigned. The deputy has really run in conjunction with HR, a very good process. We have 2 candidates identified for the dispatch opening, and we have a retirement coming up in January. So right now on our radar screen that we're looking at is contingency planning for our what we call the PSAP, or Regional Public Safety Answering Point. We do have plans in place with our partner agencies, East Haven, Guilford. We have backup on top of backups on top of backups. The deputy has put a plan together. We tested it back in April, March and April. But my concern is if we have a possible exposure and we reach out to, say, a neighboring town and say, can we have a dispatcher come in and help us? Are we going to start looking at some type of cross-contamination issues? And do they want to do that? Do you want to send your dispatcher to an area or a department that may have some cases ongoing? So that's why we're building out this redundancy, and we're looking at that. So stay tuned for more on that, because I think we need, it's prudent for us to do that. Before I go, does anyone have any questions about that before I move on?
Yeah, John, I have a question, and I know you were the architect with dispatch with North Haven and Hamden combining. Is that also something you're considering or looking into? Because it would seem to me with a larger critical mass, there would be potential economies of scale, and maybe not the nightmare that when you have such a smaller staff that if everybody left, we'd be in trouble.
To that point, I think that there's some benefits with a regional center, but I will tell you that, our center operates very well. We are going to look at our staffing, our full-time staffing. That's something we're going to look at. But I think with COVID and what we're facing, it might almost be a little more dangerous if we had, say, 3 towns, 4 towns in one center. You could lose something there. So there's some pros and cons. If you asked me years back, I would say I'm 100% behind it. But when we're at our proper levels and we're doing what we need to do, we have a very good center. We meet all the requirements, and I'm happy with that. I will tell you that the municipalities or the departments that aren't properly staffed and aren't up to standard or where they need to be based on their call volume, they could see a cost savings with regionalization. Whereas the centers that are doing what they should be doing and they have the staffing, you're not going to really realize a significant cost saving. So, we could pursue that in the future and talk about that. But right now, I think it's just building in some contingency planning. And I think this is the way, if we can go out and find some people, and we know they're out there, we just have to get it in play.
Also, Peter, I want to add that, we have looked at this. We've had ongoing discussions with some of our neighboring towns, and they basically declined. There was not tremendous amount of interest in doing that. That was as recently as about a year ago. So, to the chief's point, there may be some economies of scale, particularly for some of the smaller towns, but they've got their own issues. Some of them are, about unions and things like that. So, just is what it is. The one thing I would, you and I have already talked about it, Chief, and that is that we may have to, as you say, go before the Board of Finance and the First Selectman talk a little bit about contingencies, in filling in these folks on the dispatch center. And as of right now, we don't have to bring anything forward. So it's just a question of keeping an eye on it. And maybe by December, we may have to take a look at that.
Yep. Yeah. The only other thing I have is received a couple letters. One is from the University of New Haven, thanking Sergeant Carney and K9 Aero for doing a K9 demonstration and speaking about some of the new the police accountability bill, and they were impressed on the time she took and how she went and demonstrated some of the dog's capability. But more importantly, she stayed and answered every last question, and they really wanted to thank her for that. So well done to Sergeant Carney. From the umbrella for domestic violence and services to Lieutenant Carangelo. Lieutenant Carangelo, she's our liaison with them. She did a PSA for Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and leave it to her not just to do it, but to do it perfectly. She had a nice backdrop and a nice view and did a tremendous job. So they were thankful for helping them put that PSA together. Represented very well. And also, I want to give a shout out to again to another group that maybe doesn't always get the attention, but our crossing guards. We did get, of course, contact from a citizen thanking the crossing guards on how well they were doing with the local school openings and then helping out at Parker Park. So I wanted to throw that out there. I don't think they're always recognized. They're out there every day in the weather. They're helping out, and now even with COVID, they've transitioned and helped in other ways too. So thanks to them. We appreciate them and everything they do for us in the town. And no one else has any other questions.
I have one more, sir.
Sure.
Talk a little bit about, I see we have a number of fraud issues. Is this online fraud? What are we talking about here? Obviously, nationwide online fraud is a huge problem and getting worse. People are getting hacked all the time. I was basically told by my company that if you haven't been hacked, you will be hacked. There's only two kind of people in the world, those who have been hacked and those who will be hacked. So I'm just wondering, is this what you're seeing? And what can the public do, in fact, in terms of working with you guys when they've got an issue?
It's a good point. And so the fraud would encompass a whole bunch of different types of cases. So one of the ones that we try to focus on are the elderly specifically. You'll get a phone call that your grandson or granddaughter's in jail and they need money for bail and you need to do this, and it's the police department. We won't call you and ask you those questions. They will say wire the money or go get gift cards. That's not how we do business. So, always, number one, backtrack and verify. Check with your loved ones to make sure what's going on. If you hear the word gift card or wire money, hang up the phone. You shouldn't even take those calls. And that's hard because most people are caring. They want to listen. They want to be polite. Don't even listen. The other part is if it's too good to be true, it is. If you send me $300, I have an investment program or a rental property, I'm going to give you $300 back. Just wire me this. Don't get involved in any of that. The other one is online phishing, and now we're starting to get into, internet crimes and banking, your bank accounts and your credit cards. Those most of the financial institutions just reimburse. Openly, we have a very tough time with those type of cases. Most of the servers are international, and our reach is very limited. So the financial institutions will reimburse for those. What I would say is get your credit run, do it at different intervals, maybe once a year, depending on if you're active or you've been victimized before. get your credit alert, because, we're not seeing as many accounts opened up in people's names as we used to, but that was a good indicator. Like you see a credit card that you don't have. I would just say, be mindful. When you get the phone calls, you know what, whether they're selling a product or if it's too good to be true, or you get that feeling like this isn't, just please hang up, or call us. But those are fraud's a whole encompassing, but the ones that I worry about are the elderly population, and I can't stress enough to them. Just hang up the phone, hang it up, just hang up on them. That's the best you can do. About warranty on your car. I'm calling about your credit, and maybe we can help refinance your credit. Don't give social security numbers.
Social security, huh?
Do not.
So that's another one I want to talk about. One of the other really common frauds is that they are calling elderly people, and they're saying, this is Social Security, and you owe us money, and if you don't get us money, in the next 27 minutes, you're going to have a big fine, and we're going to come get you. This is absolute fraud. This never, ever, ever happens. The tax people never do this.
Social Security will send out a letter. They're
Right.
not calling.
But
I had two of those last week.
The IRS will not do that to you. They don't work that way. So just know that that's fraud as well. It's amazing how much is out there, and a lot of people have nothing better to do with their time than try to get money this way. So,
Yeah. And lastly, what you'll see are the phishing scams with the emails, and it'll be either your eBay or your Amazon account, or websites that are Bank of America. And what you need to do is check up in the header, click on the address, and look at it and see what the ending is. And even then, don't ever click on the links that they say, click here to resolve this issue. Go up in the email, click on it, look at the address. A lot of them you'll see are a bunch of letters and, Gmail or different endings. Pick up the phone, call those companies. If you think that it could possibly be something that's legitimate, don't click on anything in the body of an email. Thankfully, our IT department, they do these testing on us all the time. And, to anyone, I always apologize if I didn't get back to you on an email, or maybe I missed it because I deleted it, because if it doesn't look right, I delete it. So same thing you should do too. You're better off begging for forgiveness and saying, I'm sorry, than compromising your internal network of your business and or your home. But a timely PSA, thank you for bringing that up around the holiday season coming up.
Great. All right, then. If we're finished with that part of the meeting, I'd like to turn it over to Peter Hugret now and go to traffic.
All right. Thank you, Rick. 5 items, pretty straightforward. Item 1 was a request for traffic studies. There's no action really necessary here. The chief's going to talk to the town engineer. One of the studies was down in Stony Creek that we might just look into a little farther. And the other was town center area around the Cedar Street, but no action on that one. The second item was request for crosswalk ahead, crosswalk signs on School Street in the vicinity of Watrous Avenue. Upon investigating it, one of the crosswalk signs at this intersection, they do exist, and they are current signs, the right reflectivity, the right size, etc., is attached to a utility pole, and that's against the law. So we have to put it on its own post. There are no down arrows on the existing signs that point to the crosswalk. That becomes more important as paint wears out, etc. So that's something that I would like to have a motion that installs the sign that faces south, presently on the utility pole, properly installed on its own pole. And I also would like included in that motion, down arrows be attached on that pole to be installed, as well as the one that you see if you're coming from the north on School Street onto that post. So somebody make that motion.
Like to end that motion.
What's that?
I'd like to entertain that motion, please, as you stated it.
You want me to restate it?
No, I'd like somebody to just entertain that motion. John? Okay, great. And can we get a second, please?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
As a follow-on, this was not requested, but I'll also talk to Steve Palumbo, who is the Stony Creek Association's interface for traffic. They're very sensitive to signs down there, which I think is a good thing. To see if they would be in favor of putting signs that warn the crosswalk is coming up. But that was not part of the request, so we'll save that for another day. Item 3 was Rogers Street near St. Mary's School. It connects Main Street with Meadow Street. It's a narrow street. It's something that the town is aware of. The town engineer is working with a traffic engineering company as it relates to possible additional development at 60 High Street. That's where MIF used to be, between Dutch Wharf and some of the buildings that are already there. At any rate, this was presented as an information only, no action necessary on number 3, but it was a fine presentation. So item 4 is a request to change out an existing no parking sign on Lanfear's Cove Road near its intersection with Double Beach Road to no parking here to corner. It's a little ambiguous with just saying no parking, which side of the sign, that whole thing. So I would like a motion to change out the no parking sign on Lanfear's Cove Road to no parking here to corner.
So moved.
Have a second, please.
Second.
Go ahead.
Val seconds.
All
Yes.
in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
And the final request, and Shirley, you were on. I don't know if you're still on, Shirley, but
I'm on.
okay, good. We can't see you, but we can hear you. We did have quite a bit of conversation, etc., on this. There's 2 parts to this request. The first part is the installation on Buena Vista of a no outlet sign at the beginning, so that people turning up that road realize that it's not a scenic highway. You're going to have to come back out the same way you went in, type thing. And so I would like a motion on that, because this next one I'm going to want to defer. So could I have a motion for installing a no outlet sign at the beginning or at the intersection of Buena Vista and Thimble Islands Road, please?
So moved.
Second, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The second part of the request was no parking this side. And we had several people, the Sullivans, the requester, John Opie, the chief talked with Dave Atkinson. So I've talked with Steve Palumbo, who's again the Stony Creek Association's interface. And a lot of different thoughts are coming into it. I'd like to defer the request for no parking this side until the January. It was late request just last week, and so put that on the January agenda, so no action necessary there.
And Peter, just remind us, what is going to happen between now and then? What we're going to study that further? I
want to. Well, some of the things that came through was maybe make it no parking side from one of the residents. There's a fire hydrant up the street on the even side of the street down to the bottom of the street, but not the whole street. Another was do nothing. So I want to get the association's input to it and come back to you with more of that. There was really not a lengthy conversation in that area. When I was talking to Steve, it was more about the school street.
Okay, great.
That's my report.
And we won't be doing anything beyond this for traffic tonight. And I believe we do not have a December meeting. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So on behalf of this board, I would like to wish everybody a happy holiday season. Stay safe. Wear masks. Do what you got to do. But stay safe. It's getting tough again.
And crazy.
Yes, it is. And Shirley, I'll be back to you, obviously, with
clear.
respect. Okay?
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, great. So I would like to, at this point, entertain a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Second, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Happy holidays, everybody.
This program was brought to you in part through the support of the Town of Brantford. Watch town meetings and other videos on demand at BrantfordTV.org.